Not all tuna are created equal. Some sell for $2 a can. One sold for $3.2 million at a single auction. Today we're ranking 9 tuna species from the least impressive to the most extraordinary fish in the ocean, and the gap between number 9 and number 1 is bigger than you think. Longtail tuna. The longtail tuna is the species that refuses to leave the coast. While every other tuna on this list is built for crossing oceans, the longtail spends its entire life within sight of land, patrolling the shallow coastal waters of the Indo-Pacific from the Arabian Sea to the Western Pacific. It's the second smallest true tuna, rarely growing past 80 pounds, but what it lacks in size it makes up for in speed and numbers, forming dense, tightly coordinated schools that chase down smaller baitfish, squid, and crustaceans close to shore. Longtails mature fast, hitting reproductive age by 2 or 3 years old, and can live for over a decade, longer than several of their bigger cousins. For most of the 20th century, industrial fleets ignored this fish entirely because it wouldn't venture into open water. That changed almost overnight. Catches exploded nearly tenfold since the 1980s, driven by small-scale fisheries across Southeast Asia, turning one of the least studied tuna species into one of the most heavily fished, with barely any research to show for it. Blackfin tuna. The blackfin tuna is the smallest of the 8 true tuna species and proof that size has nothing to do with attitude. Confined almost entirely to the western Atlantic, from the US coast down to Brazil, blackfin top out around 45 pounds yet still hit bursts of 40 miles per hour, earning a reputation as one of the hardest fighting fish pound for pound that any angler can hook. They live fast, sexual maturity by age 2, a long spawning season stretching from spring into autumn, and a single female releasing up to 20 million eggs in one season. But that fast start comes with a short ending. Most blackfin only live around 5 years, one of the briefest lifespans in the entire tuna family. Their diet shifts constantly with the season, switching between sardines, squid, mackerel, and flying fish depending on what's available. Despite the short life and small size, their steel blue backs and dark, white-edged finlets make them instantly recognizable, and their punchy flavor has quietly built a following well beyond their modest commercial value. Skipjack tuna. Skipjack is the fish that isn't even technically a true tuna, yet supplies roughly 60% of all tuna caught on the planet. Sitting in its own genus, separate from bluefin, albacore and yellowfin, skipjack make up for their smaller size and lower price with sheer numbers, gathering in schools tens of thousands strung around floating debris or even cruising whale sharks. They have no swim bladder at all, meaning if they ever stop swimming forward, they sink, so their hot, oxygen-hungry muscles never stop working, diving to nearly 900 feet by day and rising to the surface at night. Skipjack grow astonishingly fast, reaching catchable size in under a year, and spawn almost year-round, with a single female releasing up to 2 million eggs per event. That combination of speed, early maturity, and relentless breeding is exactly why skipjack can absorb the heaviest fishing pressure of any tuna species on Earth and still carry a least concern conservation rating. The fish canneries were basically built around albacore. Albacore is the only tuna legally allowed to be labeled white meat in the United States, and the one you can spot from across a boat deck by its fins alone. Albacore have unusually long pectoral fins, sometimes stretching nearly a third of their body length, giving them the lift and stability to cruise efficiently across entire ocean basins during their early years. Unlike most tuna, which hunt mostly fish, albacore prefer squid and octopus, diving as deep as 2,000 feet at night and eating close to a quarter of their body weight daily just to keep their metabolism running. They don't mature until 5 or 6 years old, then spawn in warm tropical water between November and February. Most albacore are caught by trolling rather than the massive nets used on other species, a detail that actually matters on your plate, since troll-caught fish tend to be younger and carry noticeably less mercury than older, long-line-caught albacore, making the catch method almost as important as the species itself. Yellowfin tuna. Yellowfin tuna will deliberately swim beneath dolphins. In the eastern tropical Pacific, larger yellowfin regularly track schools of prey directly under dolphin pods, a partnership so reliable that experienced anglers use dolphins at the surface as a sign yellowfin are hunting underneath, a relationship scientists still can't fully explain. Yellowfin back up that hunting style with real speed, tucking their fins into body grooves to cut drag and bursting past 50 miles per hour after flying fish, mackerel, and sardines. They grow up fast too, reaching sexual maturity in just 2 to 3 years, among the quickest of any tuna, and mature females can spawn almost daily, releasing up to 8 million eggs per event. That reproductive output makes them remarkably resilient to fishing pressure, but it comes at a cost. Most yellowfin only live 7 or 8 years despite growing up to 400 pounds. Bright yellow, black-tipped fins make them impossible to miss, and exactly why they're one of the most heavily targeted tuna on Earth. Big-eye tuna. Big-eye tuna dives nearly 6,000 feet down, deeper than almost any other tuna alive. Those oversized eyes aren't decorative, they're built to hunt in near-total darkness, letting big-eye exploit the deep scattering layer, a dense band of fish and squid that hides hundreds of meters below the surface during daylight. Big-eye follow a strict daily rhythm because of it, cruising near the surface at night, then plunging below the thermocline into freezing low-oxygen water at dawn, something few other predators can tolerate. They reach sexual maturity remarkably young, at just 2 to 4 years old, and in tropical waters spawn almost continuously, with females releasing millions of eggs every few days. Some individuals live 16 to 18 years, considerably longer than their close relative, the yellowfin, thanks to specialized blood chemistry and heat-retaining vascular systems that keep their core warm even at crushing depths. That cold water tolerance is also why bigeye occasionally turn up traveling alongside pilot whales. Southern bluefin tuna. Southern bluefin tuna is a species where literally every individual alive today was born in the same small patch of ocean. Unlike its Atlantic and Pacific relatives, southern bluefin has only one known spawning ground on the entire planet, a stretch of warm water south of Java in the northeastern Indian Ocean, and it doesn't rush into breeding, waiting until 11 or 12 years old to mature, among the latest of any tuna. Once mature, a single female can release up to 15 million eggs in a season. Juveniles ride ocean currents down the Australian coast, feeding in the Great Australian Bight before setting off on migrations between New Zealand and South Africa as adults. They can live 40 years and top 400 pounds, but that single spawning ground makes the entire species fragile. Decades of overfishing crushed the population down to somewhere between 3 and 8% of its original size. Stricter quotas have since moved its status from critically endangered to endangered. Real progress, but still one of the most at-risk tuna on the planet.
Pacific bluefin tuna.
Pacific bluefin tuna can be born off Japan and cross an entire ocean before its first birthday. Juveniles weighing barely 10 pounds leave their nursery grounds in the Sea of Japan and swim roughly 5,000 to 6,000 miles to the coast of California and Mexico, one of the longest migrations of any fish their size, completing the crossing in as little as 55 days using a heat-retaining vascular system that lets them dive nearly 1,800 feet into freezing water without losing speed. They spend years feeding on squid, sardines, and anchovies off the American coast before swimming the entire route back home to spawn, part of a life that can stretch past 25 years. That epic migration nearly destroyed the species. Overfishing driven by demand for its rich flavor crashed the population by more than 98% from historic levels by 2010. International quotas since then have allowed real recovery, proof that a fish capable of crossing an ocean alone can also be brought back from the edge with enough coordinated effort. Atlantic bluefin tuna. Atlantic bluefin tuna sold for $3.2 million at a single Tokyo auction. That jaw-dropping price isn't a fluke, it's a symptom of biology found in almost no other fish on Earth. Atlantic bluefin are warm-blooded, using a specialized network of blood vessels to retain metabolic heat, which is exactly what lets them swim comfortably in the icy waters off Iceland one season and the tropical Gulf of Mexico the next, with tagged individuals crossing the entire Atlantic multiple times a year. That internal engine also makes them explosively fast, retracting their fins to cut drag and hitting bursts over 40 miles per hour, while buying them an unusually long life, up to 40 years for a fish this heavily hunted. They don't spawn until around age 8, and only in two places on Earth, the Gulf of Mexico and the Mediterranean, where a single female can release up to 10 million eggs in a season. After decades of near collapse from overfishing, conservation efforts paid off enough that the IUCN upgraded Atlantic bluefin from endangered to least concern in 2021, a genuine comeback for the ocean's most expensive fish.
Dogtooth tuna.
Every other species on this list follows the same open ocean playbook: constant motion, tight schools, endless migration. The dogtooth tuna breaks nearly every rule. It's a reef predator, not an open water one, cruising coral walls and seamounts across the Indo-Pacific from the Red Sea to French Polynesia. Juveniles still school for protection, but large adults hunt completely alone, taking on the same apex role as reef sharks and giant trevally. It's also visually unmistakable, swimming with its jaws permanently open to reveal roughly 20 large, conical, dog-like teeth per jaw, the feature that gives it its name and a completely different bite than any other tuna. It grows fast, reaching sexual maturity around age 2, and can hit nearly 300 pounds, making it the largest tuna family species outside the main Thunus genus. But it carries a risk none of the others share. Large reef-dwelling adults can accumulate saguaro toxin from the fish they hunt, occasionally making them dangerous to eat despite being a prized catch.